Greetings everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to paint a fun, colorful landscape together, and this is a reference photo we're going to go off of. Now we're not going to try to make it exactly like the photo. This is, going to be the fun part. We're just going to take the idea and recreate it into our own style together, okay? So let's go straight to it and go over the materials needed for today. We need some canvas of some sort. I'm using a gallery style thick. Gallery means thicker, remember, and studio is a thinner canvas, but I'm using a gallery style canvas here, and this is a 16 by 20 inch canvas. You could use any size you'd like. For paints, we're gonna use my 24 set right here, and I'll show you which colors we're gonna use from this set. We need medium yellow, scarlet, sap green, raw sienna, ultramarine blue, violet, lamp black, and the most important one, we're going to be using titanium white. This is a bigger tube. This is from my 5 set, and those were acrylics. You could use any paint you have available, but that is what I'm using today for this lesson. For brushes, we need a couple of these blending brushes right here. These are exactly the same. One I like to use for dabbing in the water and laying out my colors really quickly with water in my paint. And then the second one I like to blend everything in dry, right? But if you have one of these, I would recommend using some sort of different brush to lay out your colors with the water and the acrylic paint, and then use one of them to blend everything in, because this works great when it's dry to blend softly everything in. So we're going to need 2 of this, and then there's also this size down M2, and we need one of these for today. I wanted to share with you guys something about the blending brushes. So in the beginning, you could see this is a brand new blending brush, and this one's been used over time. You see, I've been using this one a lot, and you could see how fluffy it becomes over time. So actually, it's better. It gets better when you use it over time. And then in the beginning, of course, you're going to get loose hairs falling out because this is made out of goat hair. So it's very thin, and you'll see some loose hairs coming out, right? But don't worry. Over time, the more you use it, the more fluffier it gets and the less hairs fall out. So that won't be a problem, okay? We're going to use our 4-piece right here, and I'll show you exactly which ones they are. So a 1/2 inch flat brush, number 8 brush. It's kind of rough here. This will be good for adding the bushes and grass and things like that, and details on the trees. And then this is a size down, a number 4 right here. Same thing, a little rough. Of course, we need a detail brush. This is a 0 detail brush. And the last thing for brushes, we're going to need this artist sponge right here. It comes in a pack, and I chose one that I like to work with. This has been used a few times already, but any art store should have them. So this works great for like the trees and bushes and things like that. So we're going to be using that today. We need some sort of palette or palette paper. I love using palette paper. It saves so much time. So I was able to create my own palette paper here. It's going to be out soon, and so it's very easy because once I'm done, I can rip it off and throw it away. So we need something like this, palette knife to mix your paint, a jar of water, some paper towels, and if you have this, a hair blow dryer to dry out your first coats. All these materials are available. There will be links to them down below if you're interested. Like I said, any of the materials you have available will work. Use what you got and see what happens. The point of these lessons are to have fun, to be creative, to challenge yourself, to add something of your own. Every piece you do, you want to be able to include something of yourself into a piece. So change it up, have fun with it, okay? So let me quickly explain what we're going to do here before we start mixing our paint. I like to work, like I always say, from the furthest distance, which is the sky, to my closest, right? And I look at the sky. Sky is the furthest distance, right? And so I studied the colors there, and to me it looks very like white and some blue you could see. So I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm not gonna be trying to copy exactly like it is on the image. I'm just gonna have fun with it. Cover, you know, half the canvas with some white and some blue, and we'll just blend it all in nicely. And then from there I work on the furthest trees that behind you see the purple trees right here, and we're gonna quickly, you know, add that, and then we're gonna add some details to our trees here, and then we're gonna cover the base coat of our grass here and the road, and then we're gonna start adding grass, and then once we get closer we'll do this big tree here and add details to it, and just add a few details, and we're gonna, you know, have fun with it and create it in our own style, in our own way. Okay, so I'm not gonna like exactly try to copy like this image here. So I'm just gonna do it my own way. Maybe I'll add an extra tree or change up a tree, put it somewhere else. And also notice that this is kind of slanted here. It's like up in a hill somewhere, like that's what it looks like to me, right? So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm looking at where the horizon line, you know, where the landscape it kind of starts and ends. And so I just kind of eyeball it there and then leave some space for trees, and then I'm gonna cover this part right here. So let's see what happens, and let's start mixing our paint. All right, so our palette right here, and we're gonna pick up titanium white. And since we're covering like half the canvas, right, and the sky is very simple, it had a little blues, remember, and some whites. So I'm just gonna create about 3 shades of color. So I need enough to cover that amount. So I'm guessing like 2 thumbs amount of white right here on each color. Maybe a little less on the third one. So something like this, okay? Next, we're gonna add a little bit of yellow in there, just because I want some color in my sky. So I'm gonna add a small touch amount into this one, and that's it. Like this, very small. I don't want too much at all, okay? I also saw some pink in the sky, so I'm gonna pick Scarlet and add a touch as well, very small amount onto this one. Okay, like this. And last but not least, ultramarine blue. We're gonna add a little more here, about this much. Okay, we could add a little more later, but let's just mix this and see what it gives us, okay? So my palette knife, and let's start, I always like to start with the lightest color first. That way I don't bring the darks into the brightest color. And I do the same thing when after I mix, I usually work from lightest, putting my lightest colors down on my canvas and working my way towards the darkest. So you could see a little bit of that nice light yellow going on. That's what we want. And this part will be a quick process, so if you just keep in mind, you know, acrylics do dry faster, so just water helps from that. That's why I like using water, but keep that in mind, okay? So there you go, to work a little bit faster. And then our second color will be a light pink, which I love. I love how it looks. I might add a little bit more white because red is a strong color, and I think I want it to be like, you know, a hint of that pink, but it looks a little bit, you know, a little bit, which is fine, but I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some white to it real quick. And I always close the lids on my paints so that the paint won't dry, of course. That's much better. So just make it a light pink. And your colors don't have to be exactly like mine, okay? There you go. Make sure you mix it well. The reason why this is important, because if you can mix nicely and well on your palette, it'll be easier to blend those colors in together on your canvas, okay? So that's why this part is crucial, and it's important to do this part, and make sure your colors have a smooth transition between each other, okay? I mean, of course, it depends what you're painting. But for this image, we want it like a smooth transitions between each color. So that's a beautiful blue. It's not too dark, it's not too intense. I like it. So I think we will have these colors, and we're just going to quickly lay out what we have here and kind of put it randomly. It doesn't even have to look like the picture. I'm just going to put them randomly, okay? So let's do that together. I always clean my palette knife once I'm done, really quick with a paper towel like this, and maybe dab my palette knife in the water, and then just quickly clean it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, just quickly so that the paint won't dry up in there and you could quickly mix more colors later. Okay, so this is going to be a quicker process. So we're going to pick up one of our blending brushes and a jar of water here, and we're going to dab it all the way in the water, you know, and squeeze it a little bit and leave some water in there. And then I'm going to have this jar of water next to me, so I'm going to set it down on the table right here that is close to the painting, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up, again, starting from the lightest color, and I'm going to pick up with each time I pick up my color, I'm going to first dab my brush in the water really quick, just like this, okay? You could see there's still some water there, but the reason for that is because it allows the paint to dry slower, and it will give you time to work to lay out your colors first, and then you'll blend in everything later, so that helps. So I have some water here. I'm gonna pick up my first color, and I'm gonna pick it up like this. You can see I'm just kind of taking it all in and then randomly adding it. I'm gonna start right in the center and kind of randomly add it right in here. So remember, just the tip, real quick, dab my brush in the water and pick up more paint, and then maybe some in here. And then you see it had some water, dab it lightly in the water, and then let's continue. I'm gonna randomly add it right here, maybe in here, dabbing my brush in the water, picking more of that white, yellow paint, the rest of it, and then maybe add some right in here. Okay, randomly dabbing my brush slightly in the water, and then going into the pink. Okay, and let's add the pink, maybe a little bit in here. Okay, dabbing my brush in the water. Let's add the pink maybe in here a little bit. Let it go in a little bit, and then let's add the pink in here very lightly. This is like the base coat. And then some pink up in the sky, maybe in this corner for fun. Okay, so once we have that, it doesn't really matter, right? We just want a nice balance to balance it out. So I'm dabbing my brush in the water lightly again. I have a little bit of water, and I'm taking my blue final color, and I'm randomly adding it in here, dabbing my brush in the water. Gonna add some in here, dab it in the water lightly, in here a little bit, and then let's go back to the lighter color and kind of quickly, maybe some pink, it doesn't really matter, and cover the rest of the canvas. Okay, the rest. So some blue I have, I think I'm gonna add it, mix it in here a little bit, and then here on the bottom, why not? So it's all gonna be blended. There you go. So now that we have our color laid out, you could see it's very choppy, and you see some water going on there. That's good, that's what we want. We don't want water dripping, but we want it to look wet, right? Like this. Then now we're gonna set our palette down, right? And pick up our dry blending brush right here. And we're gonna work very quickly, and starting from the lighter areas, and softly swirl your brush. And you know, you could also walk around, see what works best for you. Maybe lay down your canvas down to you know, on the ground or whatever, but to make it easier. So you can see I'm like kind of tapping and swirling and picking up kind of like the paint upwards, and I'm doing it around the lighter areas first, so that I don't carry the darks too much. And you can see, look at that, look how nice it works, right? Very, very simple. Once you catch the technique, man, you can do a lot of beautiful things. So let's cover this area right here where it's light and pink, right there. Now let's go back in here and cover this area. And a lot of this is going to be covered by trees and bushes, you know, but this is just a base background. You see how nice that works? And you could see some blues and some pinks in the sky, and it's a hint. It's not too strong, and that's what we want. We don't want it to be too strong because we want our trees and the branches and all those beautiful colors to stand out, right? And that's what will make it stand out when we add white to our color so that it dulls the brightness. And lightly swirl. Cover the rest of it. Take away all the brush strokes. Lightly. I'm barely pressing, okay? There you go. We have a quick, easy, fast blend of the background sky. Now I'm going to quickly clean out my brushes and let this dry, and you know, so that the brushes won't sit in the water too long. And so once this is dry, we're going to continue, okay? All right, my brushes are clean. I got a new water, and I just wanted to remind you that it's important to take care of your brushes, because if you can take care of them, they will last you a lot longer, and that's like with anything, right? So my painting is almost dry, and I'm going to use my hairball dryer to quickly finish drying this out, and then we'll continue. All right, my friends, you could see I have some paint left. I don't want to let it go to waste, so I'm going to use it up. So I'm going to quickly put it in the clean spot of my palette, right? And this blue as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to add to this some more colors. So so the trees are very, like, you know, purple, violet, kind of like bluish with some white in it. The branches and trees, that's the goal. I want to make it very kind of purple, bluish color, right? So let's use a little bit of ultramarine blue, okay? And we're gonna add a little bit to this one. Maybe a little bit to this one too. And I'm gonna add violet to this one too as well. So let's quickly mix that up. And it doesn't need to look like mine. We just want like a bluish purple look, because we're going to be adding a lot of different kind of shades to our trees or to our branches and, you know, leaves and things like that. So this will be one of the shades. And then violet, you could see I added some violet, and it's giving me a little bit of a darker violet, which is good, very good. What I'm going to do is add another shade for fun to create 3 different shades. I'm going to take part of this and add it right here, and add more violet right in here. All right, a little more violet right here. I'm going to mix that up. And make sure it's nice. And that's beautiful right there. So basically the goal is to create from light to dark, kind of what we did with the sky, right? So since we're starting from we're gonna add these shades to our furthest tree coming up close, okay? So we're just gonna randomly, remember it's kind of at an angle, so we wanna keep that in mind, that it's like a little slope. So maybe, you know, it's like on the hill, right? So I'm going to probably start from here and go down like this, somewhere like that. So remember to clean your palette knife okay? And dab it in the water all the way and clean it. The paint comes off nice and quick. Okay, next, let's pick up our artist sponge right here and water it all the way, dab it in the water, squeeze it, and then to make it soft, squeeze it all the way, and then find a corner that you like best. So by squeezing, you get it more, fine and smaller details, and by letting it go loose, it gives you like bigger. So leaving it loose like this is good when the tree is up close and you're adding leaves up close. But when you're far away, I like to squeeze it a little bit, right? And then I add little details. So just a little tip there. And so what I would recommend doing is first find your corner and test. So I pick up some paint here. You see I dab it like this, kind of all over on one side. And then you could test on your palette somewhere, and see if you like the pattern. You see it kind of leaves this line. I'm not a fan of that, so I'm going to try to find a corner. And once I found a corner, you just kind of go with it. And then when you dab, remember to dab and kind of move it around a little bit to change up the texture and the way the leaves apply to your canvas. Okay, so let's start with the lightest color, and I have some paint here. I'm squeezing it a little bit, and I'm going to start from, so I'm going to have some trees right in here, and then maybe a little bit far away trees right in here, and then they kind of go back up in here and fade away. Okay, so something like that. So let's just start and then see what happens. So I'm going to create some details like this, and then kind of have it fade out like this, maybe even higher. Why not? Okay, I think I'm going to even do it higher, just because I want to make these trees stand out. So I'm going to continue using the lightest color and lightly going to dab it in there. Don't press too hard, because then it blocks out a lot of the beautiful details. Okay, so something like this, very fun. This is a lot of fun. You don't need to rush. Take your time. And then I want to add some further trees over there, so I'm going to go down a little bit here, with my trees. And then maybe add some right in here. And then pick it back up. Using the same color and lightly change your angles around. And remember, it goes down, so I want this area to be taller than this area. Okay, and continue on. Let's go down all the way up in here. Okay, so all right, so that's our first shade of color, and now we're going to continue doing the same thing with the second color, and kind of, it's almost similar, so I'm not going to add this color too much. Just going to add a few little details, because I want to create different kind of shades and textures to my tree, so something like this. Okay, so now I'm going to use this darkest, and we might come back to that color, but for now I want to go into my darkest and doing the same thing, except this time I want to now even darken even more of some of these and make them stand out a little more. Okay, not everything, we don't want to cover everything. Okay, maybe even skip a few, you know, and some of this is going to be covered by grass, but mainly on the bottom right in here. Okay. So a little bit in here. Okay, and then some in here. Okay, this is kind of like the base of our leaves from the trees. See it? It's kind of like at an angle. And so now I'm going to put this in my water. I'm going to try to make sure I don't have too much of the paint sticking out, so I'm going to smooth it out real quick by dabbing it like this. There you go. And now I'm going to put this in my water jar all the way in, and I'm going to create another darker shade. I want one more shade that is very, you know, a little bit darker. So let's add violet and maybe a touch of red. Okay, so you see I have violet and a touch of scarlet red. I'm going to mix it in with this leftover I have here. Let's see what it gives us. So you can see it's leaning towards red more, which is kind of cool. I think I like it because I'm going to add more, you know, violets and blues later. So it gives another, like, you know how leaves are, they're so colorful. And I like this dark, like hot pink right here. So let's add some of that in there as well. Okay, make sure your sponge is squeezed out and most of the color is out, right? So you can get that, only that dark color. So it's clean now. I'm going to choose my corner and use some of this color right in here. And let's apply it on some of these areas right in here. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. That's great. It's a great color to have on your trees. Okay, maybe add it right in the bottom right here where it's going to be. And I'm kind of also blending a little bit because it's wet, so it's covering a lot of the white. You know, it creates a nice kind of glow in a way. So let's continue with that color, and I'm going to add some in here. Maybe on top in here. Okay. Let's add it a little bit in here. And then some in here. Gonna try a different corner. Okay, and that should do it for now. I think I'm going to cover this side a little bit darker right in here. Create shadows and things like that. So for now, that's good. We got a quick, you know, sketch here. Of course, it looks a little bit, you know, like it's one thing going on, but we're going to create some depth right now. So we got the base down, right, of the layout of the background trees here. All right, so before I continue with the trees, I'm gonna quickly add the base coat of this, you know, cover the canvas, white canvas here. And so I added 2 colors, the titanium white here and here, and just to create, you know, like I found a spot where I can put it. But I also added raw sienna. You could see a small amount, and then a touch of yellow, very small amount. Same thing here, raw sienna, yellow, and then sap green right there. That's the only difference. They're about the same amount. It does not have to be a certain, you know, look, or this is just the base. We just want to cover the base, okay? So we're gonna get this light, kind of like a orangey brownish color, right? So, and then this should be a little bit leaning towards green since we added green, but it should be darker. So right there as the base. Okay, quick 2 colors. We're gonna cover this area. Guys, I decided to add 1 more color. I want to create 3 different shades. So I added some white, raw sienna, sap green, and a touch of black. Basically, I want to make, like again, a soft transition from light to dark. So it'll give me like a brownish kind of color with green in it. Really quick, it doesn't have to be all blended. This is not the sky. Okay, like this. There you go. Clean out your palette knife really quick, and then let's pick up our number 8 brush here, dab it all the way in the water, and we're gonna quickly draw our, let's start with the lighter color, and we're gonna start, okay, so we're gonna have a little road going on here, so the road will end somewhere right in here, and it's just gonna come around like this and then kind of loop around here and go into the distance. You'll be able to barely see it, and then so this will be like where the road will be, the tracks of the road. So I'm going to add the tracks here. They're going to go like this and in here, somewhere in there. It's going to fade out. Okay, so I'm going to use that and randomly add the paint. Dab my brush in the water so it can run smooth. Okay, and so that will be a quick road, and then there will be like a little like trail or something on the side, and it fades out right here. Something lighter here. Okay, so I'm gonna use this light color and kind of blend it right in here, dab my brush in the water. Let's use this next color, this greenish color, and I'm gonna add some land and hills, you know, all that stuff. Now I'm gonna skip some of the areas because I want it to have some light. So I'm gonna go, and this is the base, remember. So it's gonna have a little hill here. Gonna come down like this. There'll be some shadows in here, and then okay. Do the same thing with water, dab it, and then do the same thing on that side, kind of cover the areas you think. So it's going to go down like this. Okay. Add some in here, and it's okay if you cover some of the pink, well, I mean that purple, we're gonna go back and add some details to it, so don't worry too much about it. So I'm gonna dab my brush in the water and add like a little grassy area right in here by the tracks. Alright, and I'm randomly adding this, kind of adding where I think, remember there'll be a big tree cover going up in here somewhere. So I'm just gonna, the goal here is to quickly cover, you know, add the base. So now, once I have that, I'm gonna go into my darkest color that I have mixed and add the shadows in here by the tree. Remember, the tree will be somewhere in here, but I'm gonna cover everything for now. All right, and then add some darker colors here. And then some dark ones right in here, shadows from the trees and things. And I'm gonna blend it all in. And same thing here, the shadows, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, we're covering the canvas. Alright, I'm gonna come back to some of them with the lighter color, so I'm just gonna continue covering this side. And then bringing this down here, this shadow. Okay, and then some grassy areas in here. As it gets closer, it gets a little darker and more colorful, so we're going to add more color to it later. So dabbing my brush in the water. Okay, so going back to that lighter color, and it's okay if you mix the colors. And I want to kind of cover the rest of the canvas where I left it. Okay. And kind of put it all in there. At first it looks like a mess, right? But then you're going to add more and more layers and you'll see how amazing and fun painting is. So now I'm just kind of covering the areas where I left canvas with the lightest color. So road will be somewhere in there. This area I want to make it light. Maybe mix it in with the green, the next color we have mixed. I'm going to use the darkest color and add some darker areas right in here. There you go. A quick sketch of what we're going to have. Okay, make sure everything is blended, and from there we're going to continue adding some details to our trees. Okay, so I'm going to add some details to the trees, and I'm going to take my darkest color here and add it somewhere where I have, you know, room. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to add some black and red to a touch of black and red to this color. Okay, right here, red and some black. I want to mix it in, maybe take a little more. That's good enough right there. It's like a brownish red color, dark. Okay, that's good for now. And I'm gonna quickly pick up my detail brush, and I'm gonna quickly dab it in the water and swirl it, you know, so it could run smooth. That's why I use water on the canvas. Swirl it like this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some faraway details to our trees really quick. So I'm gonna just, and then you could use your finger to kind of blend it in real quick. Now this is still, we're still sketching. We're not, you know, being detailed too much yet, but I'm gonna add some faraway trees somewhere in there. I think I'm gonna bring it down. Put it here, and then and of course, these are going to be bigger, but I just want to add some faraway ones. That's why I'm adding a few little details like that. We're going to add more bigger ones later. And then some here. Dab my brush in the water, swirl it. Use the same color. Okay, that's good enough for now. Let's continue. Let's just get an idea, and let's draw one that is up in here. Okay, and then maybe there's one next to it right in here. Like that. And then I'm going to draw one right in here, going in like this. A little bit of the bigger one. Okay, and then one in here. Dab my brush in the water, and I'm kind of making this one a little thicker, more, you know, branches sticking out more. Now this is the base. We're gonna come back and, you know, add more details to these branches, but I'm just getting an idea. It's like a rough sketch, okay? So here I want to add a thicker tree that is actually going to be going out So and we're gonna bring it out, and I'm always dabbing my brush in the water and picking up more of this paint. And draw the branches. Okay. Now we're gonna come back and add more of the purple and that beautiful color in there. I'm just quickly getting an idea. That's basically how I work. I like to work. I think it really helps me, you know, with each painting, just adding, you know, what I think would look good and making sure it's balanced everywhere, little by little, and the painting, you know, starts to look more and more, you know, like I want it to. But for now, we'll just quickly draw these branches, make this a little thicker, maybe like this, and let it go down like this. There you go. Let's draw a little bit taller in here. Okay, dab my brush in the water and continue. Okay, for now that's good. We'll add more details to it later. Obviously, as they get skinnier, right? We'll do that later. That's good right there. I just wanted to kind of see where I wanted it. Now there will be another one that is going to be, I would say, let's make this one be red in here, a thick one. And let's bring it up, kind of swirl it. Now I could have used a darker color, but that's okay. This will be a good base. And we're gonna let this one and then it's gonna come up here, and let's just have it go up and make sure. So basically I'm going from thick to kind of skinnier branches, right? And I'm gonna have it go probably up in here, up right all the way to the sky like this. So I'm gonna make this thicker, and then there will be other branches coming off of it. Quick little sketch of the branches, and it's okay if you overlap, you know. That's the point. Branches are everywhere. They are everywhere. They are like ants. got ants in my pants and need to dance. Let's bring it down like this, and then I think for now that's good. Let's just leave it for now. We'll add more details to it later, okay? So I'm dabbing my brush, and I want to create one more smaller one, maybe a little bit right here. That's kind of going. Something like that. And continue on this side. I want a tree that is maybe by itself, like this, at an angle. And then maybe one next to it. Doing the same thing. Make it a little taller if you want. Okay, and one that I want to have will be right in here. This one will go somewhere in there. And then there will be one right in here. And I'm always dabbing my brush in the water because then it makes it run smoothly on my canvas. And you can have fun with it. I'm going to have one more big one right in here, going up like this. Dabbing my brush in the water, and okay, there you go. Okay, so you can see we have a nice kind of like a sketch of our trees and everything that's in the background, you know. You could add as much as you want. Now I'm going to clean my detail brush just in the water like this. Clean it and put it down. I don't leave my detail brush in the water because it bends the tip, right? So I just kind of leave it with water on it. And I'm going to pick up my 1/2 inch flat brush, dab it in the water, and I'm going to add a little bit of black to this color just because I want to darken it a bit. So I'll show you what I'm doing. So a touch of black, and so you see a touch of black, and then take the rest of this color, maybe whatever that green is. I don't want a pure black color, but something like this. That's good right there. Okay. Quickly mix it like this. Okay. Clean your palette knife and pick up your 1/2 inch flat brush, dab it in the water, and let's pick up this color like this and sketch out our biggest tree, right? We're gonna obviously come back to the details of the biggest tree, but for fun, let's just add it so that we know where it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna have it be right here, and in the picture it's very big, so I don't know if I want to make it too big. I'm gonna kind of make it my own. Okay, and then maybe this is good enough. In the picture it's a lot bigger, but I want to. So there's like a little, you know, it bends here, and then it goes up into the sky. I would say about like this. And then here I'm gonna add a little branch sticking out, something like that, and continue on. And I want to go all the way up. I want to cover this tree and make it go all the way up, and maybe the branch will kind of go in there like this. So I'm going to dab it in the water a little bit and draw my branches. Going off and making it my own. So we're going to cover this. Dab my brush in the water and let's cover that as the base. It'll give us a clear picture of the layout. And you know what? I'm going to add a little branch right in here, kind of going down. And I know I said I want to make it smaller, but I guess it made it look a little bigger than I wanted it. But that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I'll just thicken it out right in here and bend this a little bit more in here. Have it come up and I'm gonna make this thicker here. Okay, and then obviously this down up in here somewhere. And I can play around with different shades of color, maybe even take the green, who cares, add it in there. We want that kind of, you know, some light details in our tree. But of course we're going to come back to it and add more. It's just this side has the light hitting it. That's what it looks like in a picture, right? And this side is the darker one. So it kind of goes down in here because of the grass, it fades. So something like this. I'm going to dab my brush in the water and correct some of these areas. I want to thicken this area a little bit so it can look more interesting. Okay, and we're obviously going to add more branches. For example, like let's say this, there's a branch that goes all the way down. And then there's another branch from this side. Goes and then kind of loops around here or whatever it does. Alright, I'm going to come back to the details of the tree branches and all that. But we got like the layout, okay? So now what I like to do is step back, see if I like my, you know, sketch. For example, like I want to thicken this out a little bit. I'm going to go back and correct things, you know, and thicken things. You kind of sketch things out the way I want it to look. And when I'm happy, we will add more of that beautiful blues and details to our trees. So I'm going to make this a little thicker and bring it down a little bit more, like this. Maybe even more, why not? Right? It'll make it look more interesting, I think. Make it thicker. I don't want this one to be the only biggest tree, you know. I kind of want it gradually to go from little trees to the bigger one. Alright, so we have a quick sketch here. Now I'm going to add some more leaves on these trees and this one a little bit, and then we'll, once we have the full sketch kind of laid down, we're going to go back and start like detailing everything, okay? So I got a new paper palette right here. You could see I just quickly ripped it off. Let's pick up our titanium white and create 3 shades like we always do. Not too much. This is for the leaves, maybe a little bit less here. Okay, like this. So I added violet, a touch here, and then a touch of scarlet, you could see, scarlet red, and a lot more violet here and a small little touch of red here, and then red and violet, a little more violet, okay, on this one. So let's just start mixing it. This will give us a lighter color. Let's see what it gives us. Oh, that's beautiful. Right there, it's like a nice, beautiful, you know, pinkish violet. I don't even know how to describe it, but I love it. So that will be one of our colors, one of our shades right there. Next, and have fun with it, you know, like mix it up and see. Yours could turn out a little lighter or a little darker, maybe a little different kind of tone of the color, but that's totally okay, you know, as long as it's, you know, consistent with how your painting is going, that direction, you know. So just go with it. All right, that will be our next color. And then this one, since I added more red to it and violet and a touch of white, it's gonna give me a little bit more of a red color, which is fine. I think that's fine. I want to add some of these, a little bit red. Okay, right there. Remember, actually, I'm gonna mix one more color since I made that lean towards red more. I'm gonna use violet, okay, and I don't need white. And let's just use ultramarine blue. Let's mix those two together with, I'll show you. I'll show you, because I want it to have some blues in there. See, I just added violet and ultramarine blue. Let's just pick up this color, just a little bit like this, and then mix it in here. I want this to be darker. A darker violet color, leaning towards blue a little bit. That's beautiful right there. Okay, there you go. All right, so we have these colors here. Now we can start adding some, kind of what we did with these background leaves. We're gonna do that here a little bit, but not too much. We don't want to cover too much of the background. So artist sponge, I squeezed out the water. You can see it's clean. And so what we're gonna do now is, let's start with this one, not the lightest one. Let's start with this one first. And remember, find your angle. And these are bigger trees, so you don't need to squeeze it too hard to make it. If you want, you can. But I'm gonna squeeze a little bit, not like I did in the back. And I'm gonna start off by adding some branches right in here. Kind of spontaneously add them in there, maybe, you know, in here as well. Okay. Picking more of that color up and focusing on this tree first. Okay. All right. And now there's going to be some branches right here, so I'm going to add that in there later, but for now I'm going to, you know, add some in here. I want to cover that area a little bit with this color. And then let's add some in here. Maybe a touch in here. Okay, this side's going to be very colorful. Okay. So a little more on this side. Bring it down a little bit. Now, as you go down, you can squeeze it, you know, and get the little details. And I don't want to do it a lot, you know, like, just want to leave part areas open, right? So let's add a little more in here. And inside this tree, we want to be able to add some in here as well, a little bit. Okay, maybe in. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a little bit in here. I'm gonna have some of these branches come out and from this tree. And it's okay if you cover, this is the base. We sketched everything as base, so it's okay if you know, cover. We're gonna go over and, you know, our tree and detail it a little more, so don't worry about that. So just follow along and, you know, I just needed this, I'd like to kind of sketch it out first to kind of get an idea, and then I add little bits of details in where, now I know where it should go, you know. It gives me a better idea, that's all. Okay, and a little bit, I'm gonna leave some of these naked in here, but I'm gonna go in and add a few little details here. I'm gonna add branches later. And then a little more on this side. Lightly, you could see I'm barely pressing. And in here. Okay, there you go. All right, so that's that color. Let me squeeze it a little bit. Right there. All right, now let's move on to this beautiful hot, you could say hot pink color. Okay, and covering some of the areas where I think it needs a little more darker and more details. For example, this area, these, you know, this tree, I wanted to have more of this beautiful hot pink in here. Now, I don't want to do it everywhere. Remember that. You don't want to overdo it. So make sure you balance it out. Skip a few areas. Here, I want to add a little bit. And then this area, I want it to be covered well. Okay, and then a little bit in here, remember. We're going to have a couple branches. Sticking out. Okay, and then a little bit on this side. We don't want to leave this tree alone. Okay, this tree might have some of these leaves like this. Okay. Remember, we don't want to overdo it, so I think that's good right there. And you can kind of blend it in by swirling a little bit, some of the areas where you want it up to be a little bit darker. Okay, like that. All right. Next, remember this blue? Let's do the same thing, and let's add some blue, because the more we add, the more color we add of this beautiful violet and reds, you know, in that different kind of shades, then and you don't need to clean your artist sponge. The more, you know, you'll see lots of beautiful colors, so don't be afraid to add all these beautiful colors. So some in here, okay. I want my painting to stand out, so I'm going to add lightly on some of these, you know, and I'm barely pressing because I want it to create bigger leaves. Okay, so maybe on here. Maybe you can go in, you know, and I'll add a few little blues in here. Okay. All right. So that should be good. So now I'm going to squeeze out my artist sponge into my water. Try to get most of it out, you know. Just squeeze it out real quick and then squeeze the water completely out and dab it into the paper towel so we have it kind of clean again, right? And so remember this lightest color, this light pink, beautiful pink right here. We're going to use that and add some little highlights like for example right here, and it's okay if you go over and cover some of these. So I want to make sure I, you know, get some more, maybe even here you can kind of add it a little bit onto this tree, you know, just this color. And quickly add some of those pinks in there. Okay. I'm gonna go back to that hot pink, darker hot pink, and maybe add some in here. Okay. All right. I like how it's looking so far. Maybe add a little bit of that hot pink onto this one. Play with the colors. All right, there you go. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take part of this leftover, and what I added here is violet, red, and a touch of black. Okay, I'm going to take most of this leftover, and basically what I'm trying to do is get a darker color, like a darker shade, the darkest. We haven't used this shade before. Okay, so it's leaning towards pink, which is fine, but I think I'm gonna add some violet to it because I want it to lean towards violet a little more. So I added more violet to this color right in here and quickly mix it right there. That's much better. Okay. There you go. Now I'm going to clean my palette knife, and then we're going to, what we're going to do is pick up our number 4 brush, remember? Dab it all the way in the water so it could be nice and damp. Okay, and then squeeze it out, and then let's use some of this color right here, this darkest color, and I'm going to create some shadows. Okay, so I want some of these areas to be dark, so I'm going to create shadows. Okay, and I'm going to swirl my brush and be a little bit more rough with it, I guess. Okay, and just kind of add that dark, you know, color in there. And it's okay if you cover your trees that you drew. That's fine. So we're gonna create some shadows and reflections, but for now I want to dim the bottom of these trees, you know, and create like some shadows of these far away ones. Okay, and then maybe in here as well on the bottom, maybe somewhere. And not everywhere. Right in here a little bit. Okay. It just creates a nice, like, from dark to, you know, light. We want that. So in here I want that nice dark color. Okay. And every once in a while I'll dab my brush in the water so it could be damp and pick up more of this color and play with it. So now I'm gonna add a little bit in here, a little far away. I don't want to go too far, but on the bottom here, I'm going to dip my brush lightly in the water and just kind of clean it out a little bit of this color. And on the bottom here, I want to add it and kind of blend it all in, swirl it. Okay. Continue. So I'm going to leave I'm going to leave that. I don't want to cover that too much in there. But I'm going to add some in here for sure. This area should be a little bit darker. Okay, and then have fun with it, dab it, dab it in and maybe add a few in here. Same thing here. I want to add a little bit of the darker areas, kind of to smooth out the leaves a little bit, so that it won't look too sharp. And since my brush is damp, it works very nicely. Okay, maybe a little bit in here. And not everywhere. We want it on certain places. Making it a little bit more softer to the eye. That's what I'm doing. So again, I'm dabbing lightly in the water and picking up more of this color so it could run smooth. You could use your finger to also blend a little bit too, that helps. And you see how that works? It's just kind of adding that nice layer without taking away too much. So I'm going to add a little more here, a little bit darker right in here. Okay. All right, I want a bit more darker in here. Okay, so that's good for now. Okay, we're gonna come back to the trees. Let's do the same thing, kind of detail it a little bit more here. So this is what I have, and I'll explain. So I have like a thumb amount of white on 3 right here, shades, right? And then I have the raw sienna, a touch of that, and then a little bit of yellow, and then a little bit more raw sienna, same amount of touch of yellow right here, same amount of yellow here, sap green, and then raw sienna right here, a small amount, pretty much the same, okay? And then raw sienna, sap green, yellow, and a touch of black, okay? That's what I have. Let's start with our lightest color here. We're basically kind of repeating the same kind of cycle, except we're making the colors a little bit brighter. So I added, you could see I added more yellow here, so it'll stand out a little more. And we're gonna try to add some details to our ground, our grassy area. Okay, and this should lean towards green. I might add a little bit more. Yeah, we'll probably add a little bit more darker because it's very similar. So I'm gonna add more sap green, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So a little more sap green here, as you could see. Let's mix it in. There you go, that's much better. Okay, that's good enough. And our final color should be a darker green. That's good. It's like a hooker's green also. That's in my set as well. But it's good to practice and learn how to mix different kinds of shades. So you could see from lightest to darkest, and kind of earthy colors you could see there. And I'm actually gonna add some white, right? And just plain white is good enough. And let's begin. Let's start with our number 2 brush. I'm going to clean it out, dab it into the paper towel right here. And my brush is damp. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sketch out my road a little bit, so a little bit more. So I'm going to use a little bit of this color here and titanium white. So make it bright, okay? Mix those two in. Doesn't really matter that much. And so our road, remember, it's gonna, and I'm just gonna sketch it out really quick. So then it loops around here, remember, goes in, and then it kind of comes around and then fades in there. And we're going to detail it with our detail brush a little bit more. But that's basically how the road will be. So since my brush is a little bit damp, I'm going to continue playing with these colors, white and this next brightest color. And I'm going to randomly add it and then kind of fade it away in here somewhere. Okay, and then do the same thing, the same color, same technique, but remember there's this connection right in here, and it connects, and then the road starts to appear here, and then fade it out in here somewhere. Okay, really quick. Add that light color so that your road can stand out a little bit more, okay? And then there's like a little path, and then fades in somewhere in here. Okay, so that is like going to be our brightest area. That's why I used some white, because I want this to be the brightest in my painting. One of the brightest areas, right in here. Okay, so now that we have the road sketched out, I'm going to make a little bit of the details in here. Something like that. Okay, that's good enough for now. Now let's start adding a little bit of the darker colors. Let's start with this color and maybe mix it in with green. Actually, I want it to lean kind of towards green a little bit more from far away. And I'm going to start to add a little bit more of the colors. So let's use a little bit of this color, play with them, you know, have fun with them. Maybe it's the shadows from the light, you know. So now I'm going to use this lighter color and let's add some light in here. Okay, you can see it's not perfect, so we're going to continue with this yellow lighter color and we're going to try to bring it in here. Okay. And bring it down somewhere in here like that. That's good. Continue with this yellow color. Let's add some details in here. We want the light to shine. So I'm going to use a little bit of the white, and now I decided to add a little highlight in here. See that highlight? Maybe in here as well. Because that's what makes it stand out, creating these little details. Now I'm going to change into this green color and I'm going to start adding some green right in here. Gradually add that green. Because we're getting closer to the areas that are, the colors should be brighter. So I'm going to add that green randomly. It doesn't have to be a perfect spot. Just gradually build it up in here. And then we'll fix it along the way. That's good right there. Let's do the same thing on this path. Maybe even come up to the road a little bit. Continue on with the green. And let's start adding it in here. All right, for now that's good enough. Let's add the darkest color right here, remember? And let's start adding some detail. So our road is going to be here. Remember, the grass is going to be all messy. So kind of skips a few areas and okay, and then we're going to add a darker color after this. Let's add that in there. Darker shade. Same thing here. This is like a little hill. Okay, and then let's do that on this path. Remember, there'll be some. We're going to add more shade to our grass, but for now let's focus on adding this color. And you can dab it, you know, as you go out. Let's use this color in here. Okay, next you see I added some red and yellow. I'm going to take part of this green, mix it in. I want it to be more of a kind of like a brown color, okay? Right there. That's good. I'm going to use a little bit more of black and some, just a touch of black, okay? And then some of, let's say, this color right here to kind of not make it so sharp. White always makes it a little bit more softer. So that's good right there. Okay, do the same thing, our number 4 brush, and I'm gonna clean it out real quick and pick up this color, right, that we have mixed, and let's add it in here, a little bit more of this color. In fact, I'm going to actually even make it darker, because I think that it should be darker, so I'm adding more black. It blends in with this color too much, so you could see I added a touch of black, and I'm going to quickly mix that in right there. There you go. That should be better. Okay, and now that it's darker, I'm going to start here and much better, and then work my way up in here. Okay, you could see I'm covering the tree a little bit. Because this is kind of the darkest area of the painting. One of the darkest areas of the painting. So there's some rocks or something along the way from this trail. Okay. And then darken this as well. I'm gonna go in and add little like rocks and things on this path. I'm barely pressing my brush. Okay, continue, and I want to add the same idea here as well. You could see I'm randomly drawing things out, and then obviously I'll correct it along the way. I'm going to dab my brush in the water, and as a damp brush I'm going to create this highlight, this shade. Remember, I want to blend it in kind of with the tree a little bit. Okay, so just the water, and spread that dark highlight skip some of the areas. We want some of those highlights in there. Okay. Let's darken this area. The shadows in there are pretty dark, and then maybe there's some little bumps along the way. Let's add some shadows in here. Dab my brush lightly in the water and clean it out onto the paper towel. And we're going to create some darker highlights in here. All right. And it's okay if you cover the road. We're going to detail it anyway. Okay, so let's continue. Now the highlights on here, I want to darken some of this. So basically I'm creating highlights, okay? So let's say the sun is more hitting on this side, on the right side, like this. So I'm gonna create all the shadows kind of leaning towards the left, okay? And that's what I'm doing. Doing on this side, and a little bit of the shadow coming down there. Just back and forth. Barely pressing. Okay, let's switch over to number 8 real quick, and remember this kind of orangey color. And we're gonna, our brush is damp. We're gonna kind of lightly press and add that orangey color and fade it out into the lighter color. Same thing here. And fade it out. Okay. And in fact, let's add a touch of red. Actually, no, we have it here. We have it here. Remember this color? We changed it, mixed it with dark a little bit. Let's use a little bit of it. We don't need that much. A little bit of it, and do the same thing with this color. I want to lightly press. I want to make it look rough and like this. Okay. So, same thing on this side. All right. Now, let's pick up the detail brush and add some details to our road. So let's use titanium white, and remember this lightest color. Swirl it with titanium white. Okay, swirl it like this, and let's fix up the road. Like, let's try to make it perfect. So let's have it go swirl here, here, and let's have it maybe fade out somewhere in here. And then we can have, like, you can draw some of the white on the trees. Maybe the light is shining through. Okay, maybe in here the sunlight is hitting and shining through some of these trees here. It's like an open area, yeah? You can see the countryside. That's where they're driving. So, white. And okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of this yellow color, this brighter color right here. And I'm going to go over and create some highlights from the sun from far away. Okay. Maybe this area is bright, right up in the hill. And it comes down, fades out to the dark area. That's what we want. We want little details. Maybe there's little highlights here. Okay. few more little beautiful details. And then maybe right in here. Continue. Let's go back to this darkest brownish color, swirl it and do the same thing, kind of touch some of them, not too much, but some of the areas where you think need a little bit of shadows. It's a little too much there. That's okay. I'm going to use a little bit of that yellow with my number 4. Kind of blend it out. Blend it out so it won't be so strong. But let's continue. In some areas I want the shadows to be a little bit more intense. And that's what I'm doing to make the road stand out, you know. All that beautiful stuff. Dip my brush lightly in the water, and I'm gonna go over some of these trees. Add a little bit more detail to them. Let's continue here to the road right here. I want to add a few of those details, make my road stand out a little bit more, you know. Playing with the same color, creating shades. So now I'm going over, you see, a darker color of my tree to make it stand out a little more. Add a few extra branches, not too much. And have it fade out somewhere. So basically I'm going to do the same thing, go over the trees and add a few little branches on them like I did on this side, you see. I'm going to do the same thing here. And as I get closer, I'm going to add a little bit of black to this color, and then we're going to kind of darken these trees up here, okay? Alright, so you can see I darkened that side, doing the same technique, and I'm going to add some detail in here. Just kind of follow the pattern of these trees. as you get closer, you can spend time adding the grass, you know what I mean, like, or a few of them. You don't even need to do a lot, because it takes a lot of time to do all these little grasses. So I'm not gonna spend too much time trying to add the grass, but as you get closer, you'll see more of them. So I'll add a few with water and the same color. We're gonna loop. Some of them will go left. Okay, and same thing here. Okay, dab my brush in the water and do the same thing here. Randomly add all the little grasses wherever you want them to be. And I'm going to connect some of these in here. Maybe there's some branches or something on the ground there, you know? So feel free to play with the colors you have and create what you think could look cool. Dab my brush in the water and continue with the grass here. And fade it out, of course. Add a little bit in here. Okay, add a few more in here, and we're gonna darken the tree like I said. All right, so let's pick up number 4 and this same color, this darker color with some water in it. And I want to darken some shadows, make it more smoother on some of these areas here. So with water and this darker color that we have mixed, I'm going to add some darker highlights to make my land stand out a little more. Maybe here. Add that in here. Okay, and then dab my brush lightly in the water. Pick up more of this color. See, right here with some water. And let's darken some of this areas here. Okay, and then same thing in here. Darken, I want to darken this area a little bit. next, what I'll do is, remember our M2 brush right here? Let's pick that up and dab it in the water and then squeeze it out, okay? Squeeze it out completely so there's not that much water there, but it's damp. And I added some medium yellow here. And then what I'm gonna do is lightly, see my brush is a little wet, I'm gonna lightly take that yellow, lightly swirl it onto my brush. And since it has some water, but not too much yellow, I wanna lighten this grass just because I can. You see how nice that looks? Look at that. And you can, and it's okay, you can go up to the tree a little bit. You know, it's totally fine. And lighten. Maybe you could hit the road if you want to, lightly. Okay? Look how nice that looks. So lightly dab my brush in the water and take more yellow, swirl it, and then let's do the same thing on this side. And it's okay if you hit these big trees. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna come back to that. And just lightly add that nice yellow. Okay, same thing, swirl it and barely touch here. Okay, dab my brush lightly in the water, pick up a little bit more of this yellow, just a tip, swirl it around so it can be evenly spread, and let's add some in here. It really makes your painting stand out, you know, when you do that. So, and we want that, you know, light, that grass, maybe, you know, after the rain, you know how the sun comes out and the grass becomes so bright and green. I love that. So we want to add some color to our grass. Okay, skip a few areas. You can swirl it all around in there, that's fine. Okay, do the same thing. Let's add a little bit of yellow in here. And I think that's good right now. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow in here. Okay, there you go. You could even bring it up to some of these. You know. So dab your brush lightly in the water, take more of that yellow and swirl it, make sure it's even, and bring it up lightly. Not too much, we don't want too much. So I'm gonna make sure it's a little bit clean before I go to the sky. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna lightly add some, maybe the sun is hitting some of these leaves, you know what I mean? So just randomly add it in there, blend it in. Creates a nice glow effect. Maybe more in the middle here. Swirl it, you see how nice that looks? Swirl it like this. And in here too. Creates a nice glow. So I'm gonna do a little bit more in here. You know. Okay. All right, a little more right in here. Okay. Totally change up the look. All right, so we got a quick sketch. Now I want to do the same thing, but with a red. So I'm going to squeeze out my brush, and with a little bit of red, not too much. Okay, a little bit of it, like this, swirl it. I'm not gonna add it too much on top. I wanna add it more in here, where the road is. You see lightly right in here. Create a little bit of that color in there, you know, and dab it lightly. And let it fade out, okay? Not too much. A little bit of that red in here, maybe in here. You can't see it too much on the camera maybe, but it does make a big difference. All right, there you go. And let's add a little bit of red in the sky. So a little bit of that red by itself. Okay. And we're gonna swirl and dab it. It's gonna give us some pink highlights. Okay, just like this. Just dab it. Okay, wherever you want more of the pink to show, you know, because I like the purple, but I wanted some pink in the sky as well. Okay, for now let's pause right there and let's add black and raw sienna right there. And then what we're gonna do is take maybe part of this green so that it won't go to waste. It doesn't matter. I just want to make a darker brown color. Even darker than that. So I'm gonna add a little bit more black to it, and we're gonna start detailing our trees. Okay, so I quickly mixed it like this, okay? Just a dark color. And let's pick up my number 2 brush, or number 4, sorry, right here. Clean it out, and then take part of this dark color right here, okay? And we're gonna use that dark color and go over, remember the closer trees. We're gonna start to add a little bit more details to it. But you see, I'm gonna do it only on that, more on the left side of the tree, okay? So I'm gonna just go up until I think it needs to be stopped, okay? So I'm gonna stop right there, because then I'll use my detail brush to okay, you can see I'm kind of blending it out. Okay. All right, I'll fix that up later with the detail brush. Okay, continue, and I want some of that darker color on this side of the tree. Okay, and then just kind of skip some, because this is going to be more of the detail tree compared to other ones. So like skip some areas and as you go out this way, fade it out, okay? And my brush is damp, so it works great. And of course, it gets dark and detailed and it fades out. Okay, something like that. And we're going to create more highlights to the tree, of course. Basically, I want this area to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to fade it out because of the light hitting it. The shadows, right? And so, same thing here, I want the road to stand out, so I'm going to add a little bit of more darker lights in here. And of course I'm going to fade it out. But you see I'm trying to create that dark because I want to make my road also stand out on this side. So I'm going to try to create shadows on here a little bit. Okay, let's continue with this tree. And here, I want to make it a little thicker. Okay, and here I'm looking at this tree and do I like the thickness and the way it looks? Okay, this is where you decide to correct things, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this be thicker here. Okay, and then I'm going to clean my brush and use the same brush, but remember these colors we have mixed. I'm going to use this lighter one right here, this yellowish color. And I want to add some highlights to my tree, right? So I'm going to lightly press on this side and kind of fade it out. Okay, I'm not gonna do it everywhere, but mainly right in here. Okay, and let's play with a little bit of red and mix it in with yellow, because we want to add some orange. Just to the closer ones. Okay, and now I'm going to clean my brush and use the yellow, just the yellow and maybe a little bit of white. Okay, and back to the lighter color. And let it come down. Fade in somewhere in here. Okay, same thing here with a little bit of that light color and on the side. Okay, that one doesn't really need it, it's in the shadows. For now, that's good. And now I'm gonna detail everything with the detail brush. Now, once you're done adding all your branches the way you want it, totally, there's no right or wrong, just make it thin and small and add all the details you want on it, on the trees, and do the same thing with a little bit of yellow and white. I mixed it right here to make it a little brighter, right? We want it to make it a brighter color. And now I'm gonna use my detail brush and kind of go over some of these trees with using the same idea, same technique, water and swirling this color, right? This bright color and some water. So every time I will dab my brush in the water because then it runs smoothly. And just go over some of them, branches. For example, this one right here, right? And if it's too bright, swirl it to the paper palette and then do it again. Okay, and just have fun and cover some. Maybe in here I will, add a little branch. And then here I want to brighten this area, so I'm going to start detailing this tree and create like a little pattern on it. I'm not going to cover everything with this color, but I want to make it look like bark and things like that, So skip some of the colors that we added. And here kind of gets dark and it fades out, right? But we want a little bit on some of the bark so it can stand out. Okay. And fade it out. We don't want to go all the way in. It gets dark. It's just the light hitting this part of the tree. Maybe some in here. The light is very strong and it's trying to hit certain spots of the tree. Okay. That's good enough. All right, we'll continue adding that on this tree. This one doesn't need that much detail. But mainly on here, on the bottom. And then as it goes up, you can fade it out like this. Okay, and do the same thing here on this side of the tree and fade it out. And then maybe here on this side of the tree. This side, a little bit here. Dab my brush in the water. Swirl it and let's create some highlights inside here. Okay. brighten this area up in here. Okay, and then we'll do that to the grass here as well. Very thin, not so much, and not a lot, okay? Very lightly. There's some little flowers or something right along here. Tap it in there. You know, all these beautiful details, once you get up close, you start noticing. Very few. Now you can totally spend time, you know, really trying to get it all detailed up if you want, you know. I'm just showing you how to do this. If you want to take longer time on it, please have fun with this. Pause. You can always come back to it, you know. Maybe there's a few little, maybe they're dandelions or something, who knows. Right? Maybe some in here. Little flowers along the way. That isn't on the picture, but I decided to. Why not? Why not add some details? And mainly here. And doing the same thing kind of here lightly. And add a few little dots. Maybe by this tree. And this one. Okay. Alright guys, I'll be done for today. You can go on and come back to it and detail, add more grass if you want. Like I said, play around with the tree, the shadows. Remember the light is hitting on from the right to the left, so just keep that consistency and have fun with this. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you guys for being here. Also, be sure to join our Facebook Academy group where you can share your recreations and get good feedback and all that good stuff. All right, guys, take care.